Really hate to stop the conversation because so much of what we wanted to accomplish today is happening in these breaks. I'm seeing the connections being made and the very burgeoning beginnings of partnerships, and we really appreciate that. I also appreciate very much all of the offers to participate in our Energy 2030 goal of doubling energy productivity and reaching out to others. I just met a man from the High Sierra Energy Foundation who is going to reach out to all of the local leaders in his area and see if he can't get them to sign a resolution in support of the Energy 2030 goal. So we appreciate that. This is exactly what we wanted to see happen today. And also, while you're just getting settled, I want to introduce you to a couple of the Alliance Intrepid staff who are out here with me today. First of all, I want to introduce you to Nicole Steele, who is sitting up here next to the mayor. Nicole, you want to stand up? Nicole runs our state and local policy. She's the director of state and local policy for the Alliance, and she's the one that's largely responsible for the materials you see in front of you and is the one that you will engage with as you join with us on Energy 2030. I also want to introduce you to Scott Thatch, who runs our education programs K through 12th grade here in Southern California. And we also have education programs at the university level as well that run all over the state, thanks to Southern California Edison. Also PG&E, and I did want to mention PG&E is also on our board, and a representative of PG&E is here with us, Marissa Uchin. There she is right there, so thank you all for joining us today. Putting on the program today is Lindsay O'Hearn. She is with our stakeholder engagement firm. She's in the back of the room. Lindsay, you want to wave your hand? If you have any questions, yeah, please, let's give her a round of applause. Any questions, or if you're interested in joining the Alliance, if you're in the private sector, we would love to have you participate with our other 150 organizations and corporations furthering our mission. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. This is really the fun part, I think, and the meat of the day in large measure. We're going to talk about two of the strategies to get us to that goal of doubling energy productivity: investment and modernization. And Southern California Edison has helped us to put together, I think, a very, very strong panel on this because we're going to get three different perspectives. We're going to get a business perspective from DirecTV and how they look at and view investment and modernization activities around energy efficiency. We're going to get a city perspective from the city of Los Angeles and how they're approaching investment and modernization. And finally, we're going to take a look at what Los Angeles Department of Water and Power as a public power. You've already gotten a taste of how Southern California Edison as an investor-owned utility is approaching it, but we'll look at this from the perspective of the public powers. So let me introduce you to our speakers, and then we're going to give them each about 8 minutes, I think, to talk to you, and then we're going to engage in a conversation. So make notes of any questions you may have or points you want to raise, because I am going to bring you all into that conversation as well. First up is Ted Bardacke, and if Mayor, is it Garcetti? Is that how you pronounce this? If Ted is any example of the kind of staff that the mayor is putting together, you that live in Los Angeles are really, I think, very lucky. Ted is the Deputy Director of Sustainability, but he has had a very unique career focusing on sustainable urbanism and economic development, and that career has taken him through 3 continents, Europe, and North America and South America. He not only holds the position of the Deputy Director of Sustainability for Los Angeles, but he also is an adjunct professor of urban environment design and planning at UCLA, and he's a visiting fellow at Mexico City's Centro de Transporte, I'm going to butcher this, Centro de Transporte Sustentable, the Center for Sustainable Transportation, okay? He has just a really, very much a Renaissance man. He, in the 1990s, was a foreign correspondent for Financial Times. And he also he coordinated volunteer construction projects in rural Mexico for the American Friends Service Committee. So wide-ranging interest and a lot of capability and a lot of knowledge brought to the panel here. So we're going to start with him and let him do his 8 minutes, and then I'll introduce you to the next one. Thanks. Ted?
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Appreciate being on the panel. And welcome to those of you, welcome to Southern California, to those of you who are from elsewhere. We have some great weather here. Although, of course, if you're a DirecTV customer, you might not have known that.
Oh.
You can retort right now.
There's a new channel, Weather Nation, on DirecTV. Channel 367. So.
But I say that somewhat in jest. DirecTV is a great Southern California-based company and doing some wonderful work in the city of LA. But the reason I bring up the Weather Channel is because it is the premier place for actually good scientific and news-based reporting about climate change. And I think it's really important when we think about energy efficiency to remember that we should not shy away from talking about climate change, and that we should actually put that forward, especially as the weather changes. People are more and more receptive, in my belief, in hearing and engaging around climate change because we are so engaged as humans in the weather. I mean, what do you say to somebody? Like, you don't know what to say to somebody, you talk about the weather, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's important to think about, and something that we think a lot about in the mayor's office as we sort of think about what we can do to promote energy efficiency, and getting to some of the goals that the Alliance is promoting, is energy is not saved. Okay, people save energy, right? It's through a series of individual or corporate or regulatory decisions that energy gets saved. It doesn't just sort of happen because it's the right thing to do. And when we think about what local government can do, we think a lot about what can local government do to enable people to make those right decisions. Those decisions that we know are cost effective, those decisions that we know are beneficial for their pocketbooks, for the broader economy, for the environment. So I want to mention from a local government perspective some of the ways that we think about enabling energy efficiency, because I'll let David over here, and thank you, Edison, for training and then sending him to us. I much appreciated. Don't take him back, please. That I'll let David talk about what DWP is doing specifically. But there are some ways that local government can enable some of the utility programs to work better. There are some things we can do just with our regulatory power, and then there are some things that we can do just from a leadership perspective. And I'll start with the leadership perspective. We can make municipal buildings leaders and examples. Right. I think that's something we have direct control over. And I really think that it's a leadership opportunity for mayors like the mayor I work for to get up and say, we want the private sector to do things, and this is something that we've already shown that we can do ourselves. I think it's going to be an interesting challenge over the next few years to see how local governments implement energy efficiency in their own buildings, because there was all of this burst of activity with the stimulus funding, and that funding is gone, and it's unlikely that kind of bonanza will ever be seen again in the next few years. So how can local governments continue to have that level of activity and that level of efficiency work in their buildings without ARA funding is a key challenge that we think a lot about in the city of LA. The second thing that I think we can do as local government is really push data transparency. And there is a movement among large cities and some of the smaller ones now to make benchmarking and disclosure ordinances. which help get around the privacy concerns that some of the utilities have about releasing data at an individual building level, and have the government say we're going to require you to report to us, and then we're going to disclose. And what the importance of that, I think, is that you have a bunch of low-performing buildings in the private sector over here. You have a bunch of utility programs over here, and in a lot of cases, you all who run utility programs know that it's hard to reach some of those customers. And it's the poor performers who are the ones who need to be reached most, and they're the ones who are hardest to reach and hardest to engage. And so this is market failure. This is classic market failure. And that's where government's role is to help correct market failure. And so we really think that this data transparency piece, benchmarking and disclosure, is a key tool to help correct that market failure that's going on. And I think you'll see over the next several months more and more cities around the country, around California, build on AB 1103 and the reporting requirements to be pretty aggressive about benchmarking and disclosure ordinances. Third thing, code enforcement. I think this is an area where we cities have to up our game a little bit. For some cities, it's at plan check. For some cities, it's in the field. For some cities, it's both. But to really get the energy savings that we expect out of the incredible work that many of you do on increasing our building codes, just aren't going to materialize if the cities and the building departments aren't out there making sure that those codes are adhered to. So it's another area where cities can really be effective in helping sort of marry what goes on in the field to the codes and regulations. And then finally, I think when we talk about energy productivity, like we think, particularly in this room, we think a lot about buildings, but we need to think about land use. And we need to think about enabling choice of people who want to drive less, who want to drive less in electric vehicles. If you drive less, you have less range anxiety when you drive an electric car, right? Yep. So these things actually have an impact together. And right now, if you look at the demographics of what kind of choices people want in where to live, there isn't enough housing, and there isn't enough housing at affordable prices for people who want to drive less. There just isn't. The stuff that's in places where people want to drive less is expensive. And that's a social equity issue, but it's also an energy productivity issue, that we can have the same or more economic output with less energy if we enable housing choices that give people the ability to drive less. So that's clearly a local government role to play. So I'll stop there, and I'm welcome to answer questions, including about stuff that's in the news, if you want to ask.
Thank you very much, Ted. Let's go around. We're next going to hear from Stephen Dulac, and Stephen is the Director of Engineering at DirecTV, and he also is the Director of their Standards and Regulatory group within the DirecTV set-box tops. This fella has 4 patents to his credit, which is very remarkable. As a published author, he started out started his career at Hughes when it was Hughes Aircraft Company, and helped transition that to Hughes Electronics. I also would note that the Alliance gives awards out every year for companies and people who do outstanding work in energy efficiency. And it's really a very, very competitive award process. We got about 110 nominees last year, and we gave our award to DirecTV for the work that they have done in driving their products forward. So with that, you want to talk about what you're doing now?
Yeah, thank you, Kateri, and welcome everybody. Okay, who here is a DirecTV customer? Okay, so all the rest of you, there's several DirecTV people here, and we can hook you guys up. We've got an excellent friends and family program, and so just come look for us after the program. I think what a couple things about DirecTV. Like Kateri mentioned, we started Hughes we're a Southern California company. We started with Hughes years and years ago. And, but not only are we a Southern California company, but we really have an international flair because DirecTV offers services both in the U.S. We have about 20 million customers here. We also serve Massachusetts.
That winning state.
Yeah, and yeah, that other state. But we also have more than 15 million customers now in Latin America, Mexico, wow. Brazil, and most of the other countries in Latin America. So we're actually the largest pay TV provider in the world with more than 35 million customers. I think because of that, our chief technology officer, my boss is Brazilian. Our CEO currently actually came from Pepsi International. There is just a culture at DirecTV of we need to be efficient. We need to be world citizens, and it's a great thing. And so what happened in about 2007 or so, the EPA announced that they were going to restart their Energy Star program for set-top boxes. And of course, if you're getting DirecTV service, there's a set-top box involved in the equation. And so we just thought, that's great. We really want to be part of this program. We dove in, just feet first, right from the beginning. The program kicked off in 2009, and over these years they've moved from version 2 to version 3. This year version 4 is rolling in, and we're staying with it just full in. Almost all of our boxes currently are Energy Star. Something like 50 million boxes deployed to our customers have the Energy Star label on it. Great for us. We're very motivated. We think our customers love it when they see that logo on their box and on some of the TV, some of the program, some of our menu screens. And so just all of that was just a very exciting and wonderful thing to do. But that was just the beginning, really. That sparked sort of an opening of DirecTV to this community of people. And so at the Energy Star partner meetings, we're getting approached by companies, wonderful companies, other Energy Star partners of the year, like SoCal Edison, and we start to talk. Derek Okeda here is one of the first people that I met from SCE. What kinds of things could we do together? You know, what can we, it's interesting. You've got a private company, we work a certain way. You have utilities that have very, very tight structures on how we can work together. And what happens is it takes a lot of effort, a lot of diligence, and interest on both sides to figure out how we can work together. And happily, we're discovering that there are ways that we can work together. And so I think that's one of the big messages that I'd like to bring, which is when there's a will, there's a way, and we can make these things happen. So some of the things that we're doing now, these, none of them are going to change the world overnight, but they're all part of the lots of smaller decisions, lots of smaller programs, things that all add up to the energy savings goals of Energy 2030. One example is that we're working with a program down at UC Irvine CalPlug, the CalPlug Efficiency Center, to look at ways in which you can leverage a set-top box in a home to help change the customer's behavior, help them be more conscious of their energy usage. And so instead of just simply having an in-home display device that we're commonly trying to get into people's homes, make sure that the set-top box can have an application running on it, and that's being developed down there. That customer with just one click of their remote can bring up and get exactly that information, or maybe the current tips or news, maybe even some weather. I don't know. We'll have to find out about that. It's just another opportunity. So instead of maybe getting up and looking for your in-home display, it's just right there in front of you, in front of the display that you're looking at more often than not. So that's an example of the kinds of programs. But I think modernization is one of the other tenets, right, of this 2030. And so we're even exploring, and this is a tougher nut to crack, but exploring pilots where some of our oldest, least efficient set-top boxes could be taken out of commission replaced with our newest super efficient, Genie model set-top boxes through incentive programs where the cost to upgrade can be lowered somewhat by having in a partnership with SoCal Edison. So very exciting to be exploring these kinds of ideas, and hopefully we have more news to talk about that in future sessions. I also do want to acknowledge LADWP because DirecTV's largest facility is in it's our LA broadcast center. It's in Marina del Rey, so part of LA, and they were able to, I think actually we're in the midst of a retrofit of the air conditioning systems. That was precipitated by the availability of a rebate through LADWP. So that is going to save, hundreds of thousands of dollars and tons of carbon. So that's also a very positive thing. So if you don't want to talk to me about the Friends and Family program, we also have Ruben Valverde and Dan Madrigal. Wave your hands, guys. And they also would be very glad to get your email address and hook you up. I think I wanted to just add one more thing, which is something that's very exciting to me as being with DirecTV, because we ended up having this attention with the Energy Star and starting to work with utilities. Flowed into a larger context, which was discussions about how to make sure that set-top boxes produced by everybody and anybody, including other pay TV providers, were also efficient. And so it's with a lot of pride that I can say that we participated in the development of a voluntary arrangement that included energy advocates like NRDC, ACEEE, ASAP, and we're all together talking about how to make sure that that largest community is also moving forward and offering the most efficient set-top boxes possible. So that we've made new commitments for the 2017 in order to try to save customers money. We think just straight out of the gate that that'll end up saving our customers, the totality of pay TV customers in the U.S., more than $1 billion a year in their energy costs. And so that's, again, is just another example of how you have some leaders, create some excitement, and you can even kind of bring along everybody else in the process. So I'm happy about that, too.
Great.
That's,
great. Thank you. Thank you very much. You can see why we gave him an award. Our next speaker is David Jacot. He's been mentioned to you all many times today by Mike Peavy and by others. It says in his resume that he has 15 years of experience designing the performance building systems, modeling building energy use, and managing cost-effective and investment-grade energy efficiency programs. It just doesn't say where. So we now know that Southern California Edison. But David, in his role of directing the energy efficiency programs for DWP, that puts him on top of the largest portfolio of demand-side management or energy efficiency programs of any public power in the country. And they're doing very exciting things, so we're happy he could come and share some of that work and talk to us a bit about the challenges and the activities and what they're doing around those two pillars of investment and modernization. David, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Kateri. Thanks, everyone. Glad to be here today. Thanks for this event. Thanks to Edison for hosting in this great facility. I want to start with, the themes are investing and modernizing. I want to start, though, with DWP's interest and engagement in energy efficiency. Why energy efficiency for LADWP? We have a long history, reputation of having a lot of coal-fired generation in our supply mix. The dirtiest public utility has been bandied about for years. Well, we have a plan to eliminate that. We're already making great progress on that front. In 2010, we were 39% coal-fired generation. 2013, we're 33%. So that's a significant improvement in just 3 years. But it's not enough. We plan to get off coal entirely from our generation mix by 2025. Now, how are we going to do this? The loading order that Mike Peavy mentioned this morning. A mix of renewables, energy efficiency, and of course natural gas. The natural gas isn't necessarily a bridge fuel at this point to the ultimate goals of getting to as high levels of renewables and efficiency as possible. So our supply mix by 2025 looks completely different than how it does today. Coal's gone. Natural gas is a little bit bigger than what it is today. Renewables are enormous, And there's still a gap, and that's efficiency. The renewable portfolio standard in California says that we have to have, all the utilities have to have 33% of power coming from renewables by 2020. We anticipate that will be ramped up. We're not necessarily advocating a particular position on that, but it's a high likelihood that the renewable requirements will go up after 2020. So we're trying to get as much out of energy efficiency as we can. We have set a goal to, by 2020, have 10% of our supply needs projected back to from 2010 out to 2020 met through efficiency rather than supply-side mixes. And we've actually built that 10% slice of the generation pie, of the supply pie, into our IRP, our Integrated Resource Plan. And that speaks to the modernization element of the 2030 energy plan. To achieve this, we're spending between $100 to $150 million a year on energy efficiency. We're investing that, and like with Edison, it's ratepayer funds that are used for that. That ties to the investing theme that we have here for Energy 2030. So with that background, with those investments and with those targets, by 2025, the year we're finally off coal, we divest ourselves of our last KW generated by a coal plant. Renewables and efficiency will likely constitute more than half of our supply mix. And that's a pretty exciting, pretty transformative statement, pretty transformative position and goal for us to attain. So I'll shift gears a little bit now and talk specifically about investing and modernization and some of the things we're doing there. Ted keyed it up really well. When we make this investment of $100 to $150 million a year in energy efficiency, we expect to see a return on this investment. And we're doing it for the purposes of cost-effective energy efficiency first and foremost, obviously, to support our goal to get off of coal in 2025. But those of us who have done energy efficiency in California and elsewhere recognize that there's more to energy efficiency. There's more we want to get out of it than just the energy savings. That's important, but we also want to serve all customers. We want to serve low-income customers. We want to create green jobs. When I was at Edison running these programs for years, we didn't have that codified per se, but it was definitely known. It was known within the utility, it was known within the other IOUs, and it was known at the CPUC that we're not just going after the low-hanging fruit of the large CII, commercial, industrial, institutional customers, and not doing something for the rest of our customer base. And it's the same in the city. We definitely have a big focus on equity and a big focus on job creation. So we formally adopted these known concepts, these known precepts that establish our commitment to get return on investment in more than just dollars, more than just kWh reduction throughout the city. We've adopted 8 guiding principles. I won't hash them verbatim, but the gist of it is serve all customer segments, whether they're cost effective or not, and that includes low-income customers. Especially help commercial, industrial, and residential customers as a whole be profitable, successful in their businesses to the extent we can, as well as offering residential customers all cost-effective but comprehensive energy efficiency opportunities. Big one, a really big one, is a principle to leverage these investments in energy efficiency to create skilled, high-paying jobs for the local workforce. Mm-hmm. And we're in the process of commissioning a study with UCLA's Luskin Center to quantify locally in detail what the return on investment is in terms of jobs for dollars invested in energy efficiency. And my feeling is energy efficiency is labor intensive, but it's not as capital intensive. So when you're a policymaker and you're looking for different areas of the economy to funnel stimulus for the express purpose of creating jobs, it would seem to make more sense. It seems to make sense to concentrate that stimulus in the areas that are less capital intensive but more labor intensive. And energy efficiency is going to be, or is pretty much at the top of that, and we're developing numbers through UCLA to quantify that. We're very, very keen to see that. A lot of money, stimulus money, has gone towards solar, which is great. has been transformative. But the money that's gone to solar, we're talking billions and billions and billions of dollars of investment. If billions and billions and billions of dollars of investment are invested in energy efficiency, on a one-to-one basis, you'll get more jobs from efficiency than solar. Doesn't mean we shouldn't do solar, but energy efficiency should be a balanced portion of that investment portfolio. Finally, we committed to be transparent. DWP is often in the news for not being transparent, so we've made great strides there. There's more work to do. And we've committed to leverage community-based organizations to help us reach our hard-to-reach customers better. As for modernizing, we're thinking of this in terms of modernizing program approaches. How do we get customers to adopt energy efficiency? Really quick to the program evolution here. The old program model was widget-based rebates. We built a program around a particular measure. We outgrew that 20 years ago. And we've done combined measures that help a customer take advantage of all the electric energy efficiency measures or the gas efficiency measures they have on their project, bundle it into a project. But now and in the future, what we're doing is merging those two and having joint programs that address both electric energy efficiency and gas energy efficiency at the same time, because a lot of measures that a customer can implement give them benefits in both. We at the Department of Water and Power have a unique opportunity of being the Department of Water and Power and having water efficiency programs as well as electric efficiency programs to tie those two together. And in our extensive joint partnership with the gas company, which I'll talk about last, we have put together 10 programs in the last year that join our electric, gas, and water incentives to help our customers achieve resource efficiencies in all three of those areas, which has positively impacted their bills in 4 ways: their electric bill, their gas bill, their water bill, and their sewer bill, because the sewer bill is pegged to the water bill. So by tying those all together, we're positively benefiting, in working with a gas company, we're benefiting our customers, the citizens of LA, in 4 major ways on their bills. And we're really excited about that. The last point I'll make on that is that partnership that we put together in the space of a year and a half has proven scalable and replicable because the gas company has taken it on the road and is promoting it to other municipal utilities in its territory and has already signed up Anaheim and Riverside Public Utilities, both of which have explicitly stated that they were able to do that because we had already done it, and they were able to follow our leads. Their electeds were comfortable, given that LA was already doing it. With that, I'll turn it back to Kateri.
Great, thanks. I really appreciate that, David. That's good. Okay. So I'm going to start, and maybe before I ask the first question, it's good to tell you and let the panelists know too, and we'll see if they sweat. Typically in these kind of setups and formats, we give them some questions to think about and look about and be prepared to answer. I'm not going to use any of those today, guys, so this ought to be some fun. But I feel confident they'll be able to handle the questions. But please also think of some that you would like to ask them as well. I'm going to start with Ted, and the City of Los Angeles has joined in the nationwide program, a challenge, the Better Buildings Challenge that was put forward by the Obama administration to reduce energy use in 20% of the buildings. I think it's by 2020. You all have got 300 million square feet that you've signed up to do and to get reductions, and I'm just wondering how it's going, how are you measuring that, what kinds of activities are you all, as the city, doing to make sure that you can meet that commitment to reduce building energy use by 20%, which is pretty aggressive?
So the DOE's Better Building Challenge in LA is an interesting partnership between the city, the LA Department of Water and Power, and the Greater Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. So I think it's an interesting sort of utility, private sector, public sector partnership, and it's going quite well. They have a goal of signing up 30 million square feet of commercial office or commercial building space to have that 30 million square feet commit to reducing their energy use by 20% by 2020. And the newsletter just came out yesterday, and I believe they were now at 26 million square feet,
Wow.
something like that, in just about a year and a half. The big news group that signed up, which is really important if anybody knows, like, what's the biggest EUI type building after data centers, is hospitals, right? And they just signed up Kaiser,
Oh, well, good.
which is like really huge, a really huge get for Dave Hodkins and his team at the Better Building Challenge. I would say that the other big user that has signed up is the City of Los Angeles. We have 41 buildings in the Better Buildings Challenge. Most iconically, the LA Central Library. And we're really happy with our participation in that because it holds us to a goal, and it helps us with tracking and planning. And as part of the Better Buildings Challenge, we've been able to leverage, we've got those 41 buildings. We are benchmarking, and hopefully in the first quarter of this year, I'm going to be able to publicly release, not real time, but every month, data on energy and water use in our 250 largest buildings.
That's great.
So we're not committing to getting all of those to reduce 20%. Until we actually see the data and see what we can do. But this idea that we're got our largest 250 buildings at least out there publicly, what they're using, so that we can figure out what we need to do is really important. And that ability to do that came through the Better Buildings Challenge.
Good. Thank you. Okay, let me ask Stephen, the very interesting work and some new things that I'm seeing with technology, where you can not only, as you said, get real-time information to consumers on their energy use in the home, but you also can control through applications that energy use. And so there's security, we were talking about this last night, security systems that are being offered by Xfinity, maybe DirecTV and others that also allow for energy management. I wonder if you can comment on that kind of growth in technology, and you've got partnerships with utilities. I wonder if you see that as potentially being a competitor to utilities in terms of the interface with customers, or as a partner providing services for the utility.
That's a great topic and an excellent question. I was last week suffering through the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. If anybody's been to it, you hear a lot of reporting about it. It sounds exciting, but it's actually really hard on a person. But one of the things that I did was attend a connections conference that talked very much about home automation systems, the Internet of Things, some of the issues that are involved with how you go about getting a home so that it has energy management as a tie it into potentially to security services and other things. I think there's a great opportunity there for much greater usage of those kinds of systems in residential homes, and for service providers like DirecTV, Comcast, and others to make a big impact there. I don't know about it being competing with other potential providers. We are well suited in many ways to offer those kinds of services. We already, all of us have some sort of a gateway type device in these homes that can be used as a controller of all those devices. Excuse me. And then we also have that gateway device happens to be connected to a really great TV display, and so it allows a lot of the customer to sort of monitor and control. And of course, you connect that to smartphone apps and everything else. We all have very strong cores of very talented and capable installers that kind of get the process of connecting all these things up. And so that's also a very big potential improvement. So the answer is absolutely yes.